How to invest in Georgian real estate correctly? What documents are needed to complete a transaction? Is it true that Georgia has huge taxes on these and other questions? An expert in the Georgian real estate market will answer us, Galina Dmitrievna. Galina, hello.
Hello, Artem.
If we want to buy property in Georgia, where do we start?
I always recommend our customers to start by choosing the task and purpose for why you want to buy the waterfront. If this goal is investment, to preserve one's assets, receiving dividends is a whole other story. The goal is to buy property for a permanent residence. It's a completely different task with entirely different criteria for the search and selection. So first and foremost, it's essential to decide with the aim of acquiring.
We are in Georgia. How can we view properties?
In fact, to view the properties, there is no need to be on site in Georgia's territory. Generally, and this applies to every developer, including our company, there are online services. Viewing the property. Clearly, when we arrive at the site and show the views from our phone, looking at a building's layout can sometimes diminish the sense of scale, leaving one unsure of where they stand. Maybe the sun is rising or there's wind blowing. Some nuances, of course, are missed. But generally, we try to explain and show everything about how things work as much as possible. If a person comes here, of course, it simplifies everything because we bring him to the site, we can go up to a specific floor, enter a specific review. Apartment with amenities, assess the quality of construction on site, and the view from the window and understanding what will be built nearby and whether it will be obstructed or not. The view will open where the sunset will be and where the sunrise will be, and in general, this certainly simplifies the possibility. Any views and decision making.
Can we process the deal remotely, or is it necessary to come to Georgia?
Just like with choosing a property, everything here is the same. Very easy. It's not necessary to come to Georgia to arrange the service, the deal. So there are two options. The first one is if the purchase is made directly from the developer, and let's say if the purchase is made on installment, then we are dealing with something internal. The contract unregistered with justice until major payments are made eliminates the need for any visits.
This is an exchange of documents.
We sign agreements either between the developer and the buyer or between the seller of secondary real estate. But installment plans are rare there, so of course it's usually... Such a deal is thoroughly basic, and actually registration can continue further too. There are two options. The first one is if the buyer sends, for example, a power of attorney to the developer's representative or to our representative team so that we can represent him. We completed the deal registration with the Justice Department, registered the title. Either he comes by himself and basically everything is done in just 2 to 3 hours at the Justice House in the public registry. And justice is registered. When it comes to a transaction with real estate on the secondary market, the scheme is generally the same. Yeah, you can send a power of attorney and we will act on behalf of the buyer in the same way. We'll register the property, right?
What taxes must the buyer pay when finalizing the transaction?
The pleasure and thrill of buying real estate in Georgia is that there are no taxes on the purchase and ownership of the property. They do not pay. The thing is, all taxes fall on the shoulders of the seller. Whether you're the owner of an apartment or a condo, an individual or a developer company, there's no tax to pay when buying. The only thing that arises is the state plan.
Ushlinna, pre-registration of the deal.
Real estate in the Justice House, but it amounts to, depending on the speed of processing, if you need urgent registration, it's one amount. If you need... The standard registration fee is different, but at the maximum, all these expenses do not exceed more than $100.
What documents are needed to process the transaction?
When closing a deal, a passport is absolutely necessary. In our experience, unfortunately or fortunately, we've had such cases. Fun situations where people mistakenly sent us powers of attorney issued in Russia, for example, in the Russian Federation. Bye, see you. Internal passport. These powers of attorney, of course, are not here. Power of attorney must contain passport details because the purchase agreement with a foreign national is also formalized on a foreign passport.
Can one obtain a residence permit by purchasing real estate in Georgia?
Yes, it's possible. Quite a lot of investors here use this option. To obtain a residence permit in Georgia, you need to, because of investments, to invest in real estate in Georgia, you need to exceed a total investment check of $100,000. It can be one apartment or one flat or one house or one plot of land. It could be several properties that together amount to, in terms of their estimated value, an important point. They make up a sum, an amount exceeding $100,000. And then, yes, you can claim the right to obtain a residence permit in Georgia. From experience, I can immediately note that today the situation is somewhat complicated due to a large influx of citizens interested. To obtain a residence permit, there are quite a few rejections at first, but there's no need to despair. After 30 days, you can submit a secondary application, and generally, from the second or third try, almost everyone gets it. Fruit, these are the market.
What steps should the buyer take after purchasing property in Georgia?
Everything depends on the task and the initial goal of the acquisition if the task is to generate income. If you're considering rental income, we'd be thrilled to take your apartment under our management. We'll happily organize all the necessary processes for you. We could receive data to our account from anywhere in the world, entry into the dollar, move forward with the option if the task was to invest in, let's say, at the initial stage of construction and resell at the peak price, then actually we sit together and wait for that moment to come when it will be most suitable for your apartment, put it up for sale and execute it with the highest quality, with profitability. Your task was, for example, buying an apartment for personal use, whether it's in a bare or semi-finished state, requires renovations. And we're also discussing these options, these possibilities with you. And essentially, we take this task upon ourselves and also repair the apartment for you. So what to do next is all up to you.
A very exciting question from our subscribers: how not to buy non-liquid real
First
estate?
thing we recommend is to still turn to professionals, because it's not always possible, especially with online purchases, to examine the finer details and potential pitfalls. The value carried by a real estate object varies, much depends on the location and much on the specific developer. The experience matters, much depends on the construction materials used on a specific site. So the first thing I recommend is to seek advice and selection from professionals for your task. And secondly, of course, if you've decided to search and choose by yourself, carefully study websites and reviews. Blogs, there is a lot of information on the internet now. Thus, you can read, watch, and do it for yourself. Some conclusions. One interesting and important recommendation: if you have the opportunity to come and see everything with your own eyes, I definitely recommend doing so, because the matter even not so much about there's a need to see the object with your own eyes, to take responsibility for your decision, how much to feel whether the country or city where you've invested suits you. Because after all, you're investing your money, it should also bring you pleasure.
And still, why invest in Georgia, not Turkey, not Dubai?
Actually, you can invest in any country you feel a connection to or have a preference for. Follow your heart. Georgia is an amazing country. Georgia is a country of wonderful people. Georgia is a country of wonderful people, of amazing culture, amazing traditions, interesting approach, including construction, including the organization of all processes and services, and so on. If we're talking about inventory, what could some particles for the representatives of the CIS countries? Georgia is very close to them, having been so since the Soviet Union times, very close. Neighborly relations, so the country is very familiar, understandable, no language barrier, delicious cuisine, beautiful and pleasant nature, climate. Speaking a bit about mathematics, about numbers, it's very comfortable.
Simply,
the topic of taxation, which we've already discussed today, is a very clear system. When it comes to business, in case you want to expand your rental income opportunities, yes, and acquire several properties, or maybe even a whole floor or an entire hotel. That's why everything here is designed very comfortably for people, investors. For almost 5 years now, we have been helping our buyers invest in Georgian real estate, manage this property, repair this property. That's why we are happy to invite you. The season is coming. Come over, invest with us. So by this summer, you could be earning your income or spending with the whole family. So, as always, see you in Georgia.